We are continuing in the book of wisdom. We are going to read chapters 10 and 11 today. Let's start with chapter 10. Wisdom guarded to the end the first formed father of the world, who was created alone and delivered him out of his own transgression and gave him strength to get dominion over all things. But when an unrighteous man fell away from her in his anger, he perished himself in the rage with which he killed his brother. For with his cause the earth was drowning with a flood. Wisdom again saved it, guiding the righteous man's course by a poor piece of wood. Moreover, when nations consenting together in wickedness had been confounded, wisdom knew the righteous man and perceived him blameless to God, and kept him strong when his heart yearned toward his child. When the ungodly were perishing, wisdom delivered a righteous man. When he fled from the fire that descended out of heaven on the 5 cities, to those wickedness a smoking waste still witnesses, and plants bearing fair fruit that does not ripen. A disbelieving soul has a memorial, a standing pillar of salt. For having passed wisdom by, not only were they disabled from recognizing the things which are good, but they also left behind them for their life a monument of their folly, to the end that they were stumbled, that they might fail even to be unseen. But wisdom delivered those who waited on her out of troubles. When a righteous man was a fugitive from a brother's wrath, wisdom guided him in straight paths. She showed him God's kingdom and gave him knowledge of holy things. She prospered him in his toils and multiplied the fruits of his labor. When in their covetousness men dealt harshly with him, she stood by him and made him rich. She guarded him from enemies, and she kept him safe from those who lay in wait. Over his severe conflict she watched as judge, that he might know that godliness is more powerful than everyone. When a righteous man was sold, wisdom did not forsake him, but she delivered him from sin. She went down with him into a dungeon, and in bonds she did not depart from him, until she brought him the scepter of a kingdom and authority over those who had dealt unjustly with him. She also showed those who had mockingly accused him to be false and gave him continuous glory. Wisdom delivered a holy people and a blameless seed from a nation of oppressors. She entered into the soul of a servant of the Lord and withstood terrible kings in wonders and signs. She rendered to holy men a reward of their toils. She guided them along a marvelous way and became to them a covering in the daytime and a flame of stars through the night. She brought them over the Red Sea and led them through much water. But she drowned their enemies, and she cast them up from the bottom of the deep. Therefore the righteous plundered the ungodly, and they sang praise to your holy name, O Lord, and extolled with one accord your hand that fought for them. Because wisdom opened the mouth of the mute and made the tongues of the babes to speak clearly. Chapter 11. She prospered their works in the hand of a holy prophet. They traveled through a desert without inhabitant, and they pitched their tents in trackless regions. They withstood enemies and repelled enemies. They thirsted, and they called on you, and water was given to them out of the flinty rock, and healing of their thirst out of the hard stone. For by what things their enemies were punished, by these they, in their need, were benefited. When enemies were troubled with clotted blood instead of a river's ever-flowing fountain, to rebuke the decree for slaying of babies, you gave them an abundant water beyond all hope, having shown by the thirst which they had suffered how you punished the adversaries. For when they were tried, although disciplined in mercy, they learned how the ungodly were tormented, being judged with wrath. For you tested these as a father admonishing them, but you searched out those as a stern king condemning them. Yes, and whether they were far off or near, they were equally distressed. For a double grief seized them, and a groaning at the memory of things past. For when they heard that through their own punishments the others benefited, they recognized the Lord. For him who long before was thrown out and exposed, they stopped mocking. In the end of what happened, they marveled, having thirsted in another manner than the righteous, but in return for the senseless imaginings of their own unrighteousness, wherein they were led astray to worship irrational reptiles and wretched vermin, you sent them on a multitude of irrational creatures for vengeance, that they might learn that by what things a man sins, by these he is punished. For your all-powerful hand that created the world out of formless matter did not lack means to send on them a multitude of bears, fierce lions, or newly created and unknown wild beasts full of rage, either breathing out a blast of fiery breath or belching out smoke, or flashing dreadful sparks from their eyes, which had power not only to consume them by their violence, but to destroy them even by the terror of their sight. Yes, and without these, they might have fallen by a single breath, being pursued by justice and scattered abroad by the breath of your power. But you arranged all things by measure, number, and weight. For to be greatly strong is yours at all times. Who could withstand the might of your arm? Because the whole world before you is as a grain in a balance, and as a drop of dew that comes down on the earth in the morning. But you have mercy on all men, because you have power to do all things, and you overlook the sins of men to the end that they may convert. For you love all things that are, and abhor none of the things which you made. For you never would have formed anything if you hated it. How would anything have endured unless you had willed it? Or that which was not called by you, how would it have been preserved? But you spare all things, because they are yours, O sovereign Lord, you lover of lives. Thank you for reading chapters 10 and 11 with me. Join me again for more reading from the complete 54 book Apocrypha.